Welcome to the show, Orlando.
Thanks for having me. Bro. Thanks for having me.
Big weekend for us.
It sure is.
Well, let's start with that. Let's talk some Ohio State. Should Wisconsin be on upset alert against the Badgers?
The Buckeyes.
The Buckeyes? I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. But obviously Wisconsin had that tough loss last week against Illinois. They'll come into this game hungry, fired up, ready to play. But I think what Ryan Day's done with our program, he really got those guys ready to play week in and week out. So I'm excited to see what they do this weekend.
Now, we're taking the pregame to Ohio State. So Urban is going to be coming back as a TV analyst working for Fox. Explain. You and I both grew up in Ohio, and we had the opportunity to be able to go anywhere to be able to play football. One of the reasons why we decided was not just the great players, but was the atmosphere. Explain the type of atmosphere at noon is going to be waiting there for the Wisconsin Badgers.
They're going to be fired up, and they're going to be fired up in the shoe on Saturday. Obviously, Wisconsin, that's a great program in itself. But, obviously our fans, I feel like they're the best in the country. So they're going to be fired up. Urban's going to be in the house. Everybody's going to be excited to see him. And then, obviously, we got to go out and play the way we've been playing for the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Well, the last 6, 7 weeks, you could argue the last 6 or 7 years, most weekends, from Urban right into Ryan Day. Cris talks a lot about the difference in the feeling and the atmosphere of his pro career to his collegiate career. Obviously, there's no pro stadiums that fit as many people as Horseshoe, but also people talk about the pageantry of college football. To me, it's more about the passion of the fans, and that city of Columbus is the university. It's a major American city. It's got even a pro sports team, a hockey team, but it's about Ohio State. What are the young people feeling like this weekend, or going into this weekend, which is one of their very biggest games of the year and maybe their biggest home game?
Well, this is why you choose to go to Ohio State. Obviously, because the fan base is great in these type of games. You get 2 or 3 of these games a year in Columbus in the Big Ten. So obviously, everything that we've done in the past, our tradition with Cris and a lot of other great Buckeye players, it just brings that all to the forefront this weekend.
Listen, you could have come out here and we could easily talk to you about the NFL and your very successful career, but we decided to focus on Ohio State. What is it about that school and that atmosphere that these guys and Cris talk about all the time, that even years after you've played there, you still want to go back? You still want to talk about it? You still want to talk about Ryan Day? You still want to really be a part of it all?
Well, Cris can tell you this. In that locker room, even when you're in the pros, you still love the school you came from. The league is a business. The NFL is a business. So when you're in college, you're first getting it. That's your first taste of freedom. Yeah. You're there. Everything is great. You don't get cut from a college team.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And so you always have your allegiance and your passion for your universities. No matter how long you're away from it, you're always proud of where you came from.
Let's talk about some of the pressure. Orlando Pace's first game at Ohio State. I remember the huge expectations. He was the #1 recruit in the state. We had to have him. We ended up getting him. But I remember his first game, they walked me to him on the field. He was warming up in the end zone and told him he's going to be the next great tackle. He's going to win all the awards, and he was able to live up to that. Justin Fields, he transfers from Georgia. As a young player coming in with all these expectations and seeing, wow, he's just as good as some of the other quarterbacks that we have. Explain that to us, because that is a tough thing for a young athlete to be able to deal with.
It is, especially coming in that situation where there's so much tradition at Ohio State, so many different things. You have to understand the Big Ten football in Ohio State and what that means to be the Ohio State quarterback. I think Ryan Day done a great job really grooming him and getting him ready for these moments. He's one of those players that came in, he runs when he has to, and he can throw the ball really well too. And we got some weapons for him to throw the ball. I think in years past, we relied on the quarterback to run the ball. And now, he can sit in the pocket, run when he has to, and really make some big plays for us.
The team you guys are up against has the best running back in the country, and it seems like year in, year out, if not the best offensive line, it's always one of the very best offensive lines. As I understand, it's obviously the position you played. I'm asking you to kind of go to the opposite side of things. This great Ohio State defensive front, what type of problems will the Wisconsin offensive line present for them?
Well, when you look at Wisconsin's offensive line, they got guys 330 on that offensive line, and they get those big Wisconsin recruits. And they come in there and they can run the ball. That's what they're bred to do. So this will be Ohio State defensive line toughest challenge to date. Chase Young and those boys up front, they're going to have to either move and scheme or do some stunts or something like that, and really try to stop Jonathan Taylor, because once he gets ahead of steam, he's one of the best backs in the country.
One of the running, I don't want to call it jokes, but funny themes we have on our show is how big of a fan of Jim Harbaugh Nick has been, and CC perhaps not as much.
He's going to out me in front of the greatest Ohio State Buckeye ever.
Are you surprised with how inconsistent Michigan has been this year, what you've seen from them?
I love it. I love the inconsistency.
What would I expect anything less?
But you know what? I am a little surprised. I think when you get a coach like that to come into a program like that, you expect him to adjust to what's going on with today's college football. And it doesn't seem like they're making that adjustment. They're still running some plays, or their offense doesn't seem like it's evolving as much as some of the other college programs in the country.
Pace, you know that Ohio State, there's been no team that's been great unless they have big dudes up front. I remember our offensive line coach, Mr. Miles, he used to say, I'm not even recruiting a kid unless he wears at least a size 16 shoe. You remember hearing that story? At least a size 16 shoe. Man, they got some young kids that Corey Stringer, all the great linemen. Did you see the young kid this weekend playing?
Oh,
the
yeah.
left tackle got in the game, the 6'8",
oh my
360
God.
kid.
So I told you I'm at the Michigan State game, and I'm on the sideline, and they bring him up to introduce me to him. And I'm looking, and I'm a big guy. And I'm looking up to him, and I'm like, man, this dude is huge. But I see him play in the Northwestern game, and he can move. So
you see him scoop down the field?
Absolutely. So he can move, man. I told him, hey, just keep your feet moving. You're a big guy. You're a big force, man, and he can do great things at Ohio State.
So one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that this is kind of an NFL question, but the way we are teaching offensive line play, I say we, but the way offensive line play is being taught at the collegiate level and then into the pros for young guys because of the new CBA and practice restrictions, things like that, it's just different. It's different than, and you're not an old-timer, but it's different than when you came into the league.
Yep.
You obviously look like you could have been a pro left tackle by your sophomore year at Ohio State, so you're an anomaly. But for the young offensive lineman, how big of a learning curve is it going from collegiate to pro, and how tough is it for guys because of the decreased practice time and because college football is going so much to a spread, pass-quick offense to get pro-ready offensive linemen?
I think it's tough. Even when I was coming out, it's like riding a bike again, because you're facing grown men on Sunday. Guys that know technique-wise what to do. So it's almost you have to get technique conscious. And I don't think in college they're not teaching proper technique. The spread, guys aren't as physical as I think they once were. And when I was coming out, with Woody Hayes in Ohio State, it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust for us. So we were trying to be physical at the point. I don't know if guys are as physical today as they were years ago.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, before we get to the reason you're here, the initiative you're you got to just settle something for me. CC's convinced Patrick Mahomes is playing this weekend. Nick says there's no way Patrick Mahomes plays this weekend. I guess got to know what you think.
Why would you play him?
Thank you, Paige. Hall of Famer. That's been there. Appreciate you,
and I'm only saying that. I saw the injury, but I'm like, hey, these guys, you have a lot of season left. And I know why he wants to play, because it's Aaron Rodgers and it's they're playing the Packers this weekend.
How many games did you miss in your career?
Well,
wait, no, that wasn't the question. Well, that wasn't the question. How many games did you miss?
I missed, not many. But,
okay, no problem. The question, Jenna didn't ask you the right question. We were talking about Patty Mahomes. We talking about a Hall of Famer. We talking about a baller.
Yeah.
Does Pace play in the game?
Yeah, you know what? I played injured in the game before, so yeah, it happens. I'm not saying that, but
Okay.
All right, hold on. If we're going to do that real quick, because this is my favorite question to ask all-time greats, and we've never had you to ask you this question. When you were playing, the toughest matchup, toughest guy to go against?
I always say, because I never want to give people credit, right? When you're in the Hall of Fame, you always think of a Hall of Famer. You think of a Bruce Smith or Chris Doman. Those guys, they could really play. And I always say, those are some guys. Dwight Freeney was a tough matchup for me as well, because he had a spin move. He had some moves that you just, no matter how good you set, you couldn't block it at times. So I always give those 2 or 3 guys some credit. So.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.